Well, hello everyone, and good morning, and welcome to our webinar on talking about the 7 levels of energy here today. And good morning, Jen. It's good to see you here on this wonderful Tuesday morning as well.
Good morning. It's
Yeah,
warm in Michigan. It's
I know
great.
it's amazing. I'll take it. Yesterday it was like 72 degrees when I was
Mhm.
walking the dogs. It was pretty nice. So hopefully it'll stick around for a little bit here, but there's that little glimpse of summer. And with that comes my allergies. So if I sound a little bit stuffy today, that is why. So thank you, warm weather, but thank you also allergies as well. That just means that the trees are going to start budding soon. So I will deal with that if I have to, as long as that means that we are going to have some nice weather coming up soon. So our March webinar here today is talking a little bit about our 7 levels of energy. And I'm super excited to be able to talk about this because it's one of those things that once I discovered it, I was like, oh, that's actually pretty amazing as I start to go through this. And I can actually utilize these powers for good. So realizing what those levels of energy are, figuring out how to harness them, and then how do we use that to influence other people. So it's actually pretty cool to be able to see how we can do that. So we'll give you a bit of an overview on how those 7 levels of energy work. As we go throughout our webinar here today, if you do have any questions at all, feel free to throw your questions over into the chat. We've got our wonderful, sweet assistant, Vanna White, over there, Miss Jen Tankenow, to go ahead and answer any questions that are coming up as we go through today. All right. And let's see, we'll jump right into it. So for those of you who may not know anything about Joint Pivot, Jen and I are out there in the world helping other business leaders figure out how to solve problems. So figuring out the best solutions for them, creating opportunities out there, whether that's using our talent or whether that's training yours along the way. We are coming out there and helping figuring out what those plans are, what those tools are that we can use. We love doing this stuff. So realizing we love continuous improvement, regardless of who we do it for, that
Mm.
is what we are out there doing. So just a reminder, my name is Julie Miller, and we've got our wonderful Jen Tankin out here. We both are in Ann Arbor, Michigan here, ironically both cheering for non-Michigan, although they did win last night. So on to the Sweet 16 for the
Our
NCAA March
our teams are
Madness.
gone, so
Yeah, I know. Well, my team made it farther than yours did, but hey,
yes, it did.
no hard feelings.
No, yeah. No stress. No stress.
Exactly. We just get to wait till next year. I will say though, my brackets are doing fantastic. So my 2 brackets are doing really good, which I'm very happy about. So some good levels of energy. And my goodness, if you have ever figured out a way to harness your levels of energy and feeling about March Madness, understanding what these 7 levels of energy are, I think I've gone through
Helpful.
all 7 of them in the last like week and a half with the Big Ten tournament as well as the March Madness tournament. So Jen and I are out there having fun, absolutely along the way.
Hmm.
So just a reminder then on what we do. Obviously, Jen and I love getting out there to be able to speak to you guys, to be able to do strategic planning, whether it's project management, whether we're doing some education and teaching. We love doing that as well, even some of those custom training modules. And then especially just getting out there to work side by side with you, hand in hand, whether that's in person, whether that's virtual right now. We love getting out there. So to kick off a little bit of what we talk about with our 7 levels of energy, what the heck are these? So I threw out a graphic out there when you were signing up for our wonderful webinar here today in March, is understanding which one is your go-to level of energy. Now, a lot of us probably don't want to admit, sometimes we go into level 1 or level 2 where we might be a victim or we might be an antagonist where we're playing devil's advocate in those cases. But the fun part about this is we jump into every single one of these levels of energy at least once every single day. So we experience all 7 levels of energy at any time. And knowing that when you start looking at your energy across the board, you don't just sit in one level of energy. Like you don't just only sit in a 5 or only sit in a 6. You sit in your own mix and makeup of all of these different levels of energy combined. You might have one that's showing out as a predominant during that period of time, but that ebbs and flows throughout the day. So while you may sit there and say, hey, I'm not a victim in this case, there likely is some part during the day where you go and have your own little like pity party and you experiencing that victim mode, but then you move right back up into the higher levels of energy throughout the day. And it's okay to be able to do that. It's fine to experience all of these, But we all kind of have one or two that is our preference as to where we sit and we kind of naturally go towards in these cases. And I can tell you it's been really fun learning more about these energy levels. I've been practicing these for just about a year now, being able to use them on my niece. So if my niece is watching, hi Grace, her and helping her understand her levels of energy. It's also amazing if you are Bravo watchers, which Jen and I are. You can watch all of these 7 levels of energy just on one show at a time and see people work through all of these as well. So it's fun to identify those. Exactly. Yeah. Would you say
Taped.
so, Jen? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, and taped for us to continue to watch during reruns and
Yeah, exactly. I know
into.
I happened to be watching Below Deck and Jen turned me on to Summer House the other day. So watching those, you can definitely see all 7 levels of these energies when
Mhm.
watching those shows. So after today, I would highly recommend you go back out and watch some of those and see if you can start identifying them.
That, and I know it sounds silly us talking about Bravo, but watching people live in these 7 levels also helps you kind of reflect on yourself and how you
Oh,
would
yeah.
react. So you can prepare for the next time you're in a challenging situation, right? Am I
Yes.
going to be the victim? No, I'm going to maybe try and go up a couple levels and be more, I don't know, positive and, actually be productive in that
Yeah.
conversation.
You don't want to react like Hannah. No.
No, no, no.
Exactly. No, and it's hard because sometimes you watch that and you're like, oh my gosh, is that what I look like? Is that what I do when I go into that energy level? And sometimes the answer is yes, but it's good to be able to see this and be like, oh, that was a really mature way to react and be like, I should do that next time. So we'll help you figure out what those types of reactions are and how you can actually see those moving forward and maybe where you are utilizing those on your own. So there are 2 different types of energy that most people deal with. And that first one is the anabolic energy. And that is that kind of constructive energy that is more expanding. It's a good energy. It's where you kind of pull stuff from to be able to do great things. And it provides you a lot of enthusiasm as you're going through it. It just kind of keeps you moving on. So if you can ever think of working on a task or maybe a craft or chore that you love doing and you don't even realize that time has gone by, you just kind of feed from it and it doesn't matter that you just spent like 4 hours making sweatshirts for your dog because you were just having a really good time. And that's your anabolic energy. The catabolic is the opposite of that. So that is that draining energy that comes in where you're just like exhausted. You can power through and get things done, but you're left feeling really drained at the end of it. And it just feels just bad in those cases. It's really hard to maintain over a long period of time. So those are 2 different types of energy that you would be dealing with. And in our 7 levels of energy, catabolic is levels really 1 and 2, and anabolic is really getting into levels 3 through 7. So we'll talk a little bit about those levels of energy as well. But just know that catabolic energy really shows up in those forms of stress. And when you are trying to live in an anabolic energy world and that catabolic energy sneaks in, it's the equivalent of essentially like taking 2 fingers and jamming them in the side of your ribs and then trying to carry on with your day while you still have your fingers jammed in your ribs. It's always going to be there. It's going to be annoying. It's going to hurt a little bit and it's going to distract you from what you're doing. So, helping to release and let go of some of that catabolic energy as we move through the day will help you sustain some of those higher levels of energy a little bit longer. So we really work on these 7 levels of energy. If you can think of it from a beautiful visual chart here, and we'll go through each one of these levels of energy in a little bit of detail here. But essentially, if you look at the center of that ball, that is level 1 and level 2, and those are catabolic, and those show up as stress essentially. And then, as we said, levels 3 through 7 are far more catabolic. So, depending on our life experiences, what we are dealing with, maybe even that day, we all experience these 7 levels in different situations throughout our day. So, if you could think of this almost as looking at the world through 7 different lenses or 7 different types of glasses on different thoughts, feelings, emotions that can be associated with each of these different levels of energy. Now, once we start digging into them, we're going to start off with levels 1 and 2 and then continually rise up as we walk through them. So, knowing that it's not always linear either, you don't just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sometimes you might start off in a 1 and jump up to a 4. Sometimes you could be in a 6 and drop down to more of a predominant of a 3. They're all showing up at different parts. And it's kind of like a game of shoots and ladders where you can skip levels of energy and you can slide down them as well. I always like thinking of that picture in my head. of the shoots and ladders game of being able to climb over different energy levels for sure. It's nice to kind of skip over some of those lower ones and just get back into those high levels of energy. So levels one and two are catabolic energies, as we said. So very, very stressful in these cases. So when we talk about levels one and two, these are more reactionary. So people feel more as if they are the effect of life. So things are happening to them. They're not controlling what's happening in their own life, or at least they feel that way, that they don't have any control, that things are being done to them, or that they don't have the authority to be able to change things in those cases. So when we speak a little bit more about level one in this case, levels one is really that victim mode where you might be feeling that things are outside of your control. You might feel that things are powerless. You can't believe these things are happening to you. You have a lot of fear, worry, doubt. Sometimes you might feel overwhelmed. Your actions might be that you are starting to feel a little bit more withdrawal or that you have avoidance. You just don't want to see anybody. Sometimes in a level one, though, it can be good because you are basically recharging your batteries. If you can think about charging up your cell phone, that would be kind of that level one. You want to charge it back up so that you've got energy to do other things. So sometimes if we jump down into that level one, it's just we're protecting ourselves from some sort of situation so that we can recharge, and we don't want anybody else around us in those cases because we don't have the energy to deal with them at that point. So we go down into level one and we just recharge in that area. So when we think about that, it's almost like you're just being like held hostage in your life. And everybody experiences this at some point. It's just up to you how long you have that pity party in level one, or how long that you feel that victim mode, and how long you really need that energy to recharge to be able to start going back out there in the world. So you'll know you're starting to move back up is when you start jumping into level two. Now, again, this is also catabolic by nature from an energy perspective, but you'll see when people start going out of energy level one to energy level two, when they start getting defensive. So if you are dealing with somebody who has been in a victim mode, but then they start getting angry about it and they want to do something about it, that's actually a good thing. So when that anger starts to come through, that's level two rearing its head in those cases. So don't give up, because either you're almost through it or they're almost through it in those cases, and they're starting to get some energy back, some of that fight back, as you might say. So your core thought within level two is you want to be more problem focused. You're starting to get defensive about it. That anger might come out, or you might start getting defiant. I know for me, defiance is my level two go to. When I'm experiencing level two, I just get defensive and I'm just like, get out of my way. Just let me figure out how to do it on my own. And that's really how level two can show up in those cases. Uh, so level two really is going through kind of resisting what's going on and getting defensive about it. So watch for that as part of level two. And sometimes this can be good. So if you need to just get something done and you just need to plow through, level two might be your go-to to get something done. I heard one person say one time that level two is their go-to when they have to go to the post office to just be able to ramp through. You don't have to worry about the niceties. You just need to get things done sometimes depending on your post office. Mine here in Saline is actually really, really nice. So I go in with like a level four, level five appreciativeness. But sometimes you just need to pull that level two out to be able to get something done and advocate for yourself in those cases.
So, quick question, Julie. So,
Yeah.
you're basically, if I'm hearing you correctly, we're going to strategically think of where I want my energy to be based on what I might be approaching. It's not just a reaction to who or what I'm dealing with
Yes,
in a situation.
exactly. Exactly. You
Okay.
get to pick what energy levels you're choosing to react with. And that's why there's not really one that's right or wrong for all situations. You
Hmm.
choose the right level of energy for the situation you're dealing with. And in some cases, you want to mirror back what you're working with. That's where you can use it to influence others as well. So maybe you're dealing with somebody who's in a level two right now and you want to work on bringing them up. You might need to, let's say you're typically operate with more of a level five or six, you
Hmm.
yourself might need to drop maybe to a level three or a level four and bring them out of that level two shell and bring them up, because the gap between where you are and where they are might just be too big in those cases. So thinking about the people you might be dealing with in a type of conversation and understanding what type of energy they might have in those situations, or even think about dealing with your children or dealing with spouses or friends, what type of energy level they might be in dealing with a situation. We have all probably asked the question before, do you want me to just listen? or do you want advice in this case? So if they just want you to listen, they're probably in level 1 or level 2 where they just need to vent and let it out and get some of that energy back. Whereas giving advice in those cases, they might be jumping into a level 3 or 4 where they may be ready to start hearing it from somebody else. So being able to understand, are they in victim mode and they just need to vent and you just need to listen? Or are you ready to be able to start helping them problem solve in those cases? Good question.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, then we deal with levels of energy 3, 4, and 5. And we talk about 3 going from forgiveness, 4 is compassion, and 5 is kind of that level of peace. That's the feeling you are going through. And of course, like who doesn't want to feel at peace with a lot of stuff? So we'll talk about each of these different levels and where it is good to pull some of these in. So level 3 is what we really call the rationalizer. And I know for me, this is actually one of my secondary energy levels when I took my own energy leadership assessment. And I do this quite a bit in organizations where I don't really know who I'm working with or what they're actually capable of, or if we're just really working on a deadline in these cases. So level 3 is really going through and it's about rationalizing, compromising, coping, normalizing a situation to be essentially good enough in those cases, to be able to get the job done. So if I think about it with respect to planning on a level 3, I might create a project plan or a plan based on what I know everybody can deliver. So if Jen and I are doing, let's say, a picnic with everybody, and I know maybe, and this isn't Jen, she's an excellent cook and baker, or I could say, hey, I know she's really, really great at cakes. She's not good at anything in the middle. So her job is either going to bring paper products or she's going to bring the cake. And I'm rationalizing in those cases and I'm saying these are the 2 things that I know she is great at. So I'm going to plan around that in those cases. I'm not going to stretch goal and be like, Jen, I want you to make like Japanese noodles today with this fancy sauce that's going to take you 4 hours to do. I'm not going to push that way. I'm just going to go with what I know from her. So if you think about it from a planning perspective, this is where you kind of go in and plan around and rationalize things away on what could happen. You might say, oh, that person didn't mean it that way. They're dealing with some really tough things in their life. You might rationalize their responses or feelings back in those cases. In some case, rationalizing doesn't do any of us any good because we're not going to address the root cause of the issues in those cases. So if you rationalize and stay in level 3 too long, you might never deal with the actual issues that are out there, and they may continue to happen over time and continue to creep up and then damage a relationship and then cause you to jump down into levels 2 or 1 and be like, why does this keep happening to me? Well, it's because we've rationalized for too long in those cases. But level 3 can be really great at getting things done without growing people. So if that's an area that seems like it's a good place for it, level 3 might be good to have some of that mixed in there. Now, level 4 is essentially the perspective of caregiver. So I have a lot of these people in my life that very much show concern. They're very much people, where they are very much so looking so that everybody else wins. They have less needs than themselves. They're more concerns about serving others and helping others improve and solve their own problems. Typically in the different professions that you would see level 4s, doctors, nurses, HR people, typically people that you would see in level 4s in these cases. And the hard part with level 4 is that if you don't have good boundaries, you end up giving too much out. So if you could think, I always think about my mom on this one where just give, 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 give. And then at the end of the day, she's completely exhausted because she hasn't gotten anything back because there's no boundaries there. And when she shuts it off and says, nope, I need to go do some self care in these cases. So level 4, I always say it's really, really helpful to be able to give and have concern for others and show that compassion. But you have to have the boundaries that go along with it to make sure that you're not exhausting yourself. So, a really, really great level when it comes to compassion and caregiving. Just make sure when you're doing this, you've got some boundaries in there for yourselves, or you're really good at self care in those cases to make sure that you're recharging your own energy. Otherwise, a level 4 can quickly go down into a level 1 and just be exhausted in those cases. And then we jump into a level 5, and this is the opportunist. And our core thought in this area is looking at when it comes to reconciliation. So when people have a level 5 level of thinking, they see more opportunities, not problems. So they see issues that pop up and they're like, oh, cool, now we can work on going to go fix this. Like that isn't actually an issue, that's an opportunity for us to go use this tool. And this happens to be actually one of my primaries where I love going out there and being like, oh, we can't control what happens to us, we can only control our reactions to it. So what are we going to learn from it? What are we going to go try out? Jen and I have had some muddy situations thrown at us over the last 20 years. And I think that's part of what keeps our positive attitude up is we're like, all right, what are we going to learn from this? And how are we going to move forward? And it's really helped keep the people around us upbeat in these cases. Level 5 is great for kind of pulling people around us into this nice bubble of how do we all win in these situations? Because level 5 is really much I win and you win in this type of situation. And when I think about this in contrast from a level 3, a level 5 planner would be inviting Jen to make those difficult noodles in this situation to see how Jen can grow. And maybe she can add a new meal to her prep plan as to what she might be able to make. So maybe I'd see some sparkle of opportunity in her eyes of maybe something that she's always never or not always wanted to try, but never has been able to execute or never has had the opportunity to. And maybe I want to give her that opportunity. So a level 5 experience would be able to kind of push Jen in that direction and then offer a safe place for us to be able to win. Typically, entrepreneurs show up quite a bit in level 5 where everything is kind of that opportunity there. Knowing though with level 5, sometimes because everything is an opportunity, sometimes we can experience analysis by paralysis or paralysis by analysis in those cases where there is so much opportunity, we don't know what to focus on in those cases because everything looks like fun.
I'm glad you added that because
Yeah.
dealing in the realm of startups and working with them, you hit on the nail on the head. Focus. What do you focus on?
Yes,
Um,
exactly. And that's a really good example of where some of that level 3 could creep in. And the
mhm.
mix of a level 5 and a level 3 with thrown in at a dash of 4 of caring for people can really help gel all of that group together. And we're going to do a little bit of planning where we know you're comfortable with, and then stretch you just a little teensy bit over there, but then also make sure that you're taken care of. So understanding what your situation is and what you have available to you from a time and resource perspective to know how much you can push and how much level 5 can actually come out. And then our last two levels here are actually levels 6 and 7. And this is 6 is really that feeling of joy, and 7 is that absolute passion. And I remember when I first saw this, I was like, wow, I wish I could experience absolute passion around something. And it took me a while to figure out where 7 was coming up. And I'll share that with you when we get over to 7, because I know I can experience joy, but the absolute passion and unconditional love and non judgment, like I said before, I watch way too much Bravo to have non-judgment in my life. I don't know that I can get rid of that completely. So, all right.
Save it for Bravo and have an open mind when you're at work, right?
You
Working
know,
with.
absolutely. And it's super interesting because I've realized, all of the shows that I watch are shows that require me to not have a lot of investment and a lot of emotion. I don't watch a lot of dramas. I don't watch a lot of, well, really anything in my life that pulls a lot of energy and emotion out of me because I realize I have so much of it to give during the day that I need to recharge. And by watching these shows, it doesn't really require any expenditure of energy on my part, which means that I can use that time to recharge. So I have the energy to give others and I'm not utilizing it on dramas. I'm not like spending my emotion watching like Chicago PD in these cases. So it's all stuck for everybody else around me in those cases. All right, so level 6 is what we call that visionary. And this is where your intuition just comes alive. It's where you're feeling like you are in the flow. I mentioned before that sometimes I experience level 6 when I make my dog clothes. I have a little rat terrier mix who does not like cold weather. And instead of spending, $30, $40 for every sweater I buy for her, I've learned actually how to make them on my own. Now, I am no seamstress, and it takes me about an hour and a half. It's probably much cheaper for me to buy her clothes. I sat for 4 hours this past weekend making more sweatshirts for her, but I was so proud of myself at the end. It didn't matter that 4 hours had just gone by because I was just in the flow. And then I sat there staring at it for like 20 minutes after, being like, wow, my seams are actually really aligned in these cases. So it was just this pure feeling of joy in these cases where I actually felt pretty smart. There was some wisdom in that case. And I followed my own intuition that, yes, I can do this. I made some modifications to my own pattern on how to make it better and really customize it just for her. So you can think about where people experience these high levels of joy. It could be yoga, gardening, playing the piano. Sometimes when you get stuck in crafts, sometimes you're just like, I can't believe like 4 hours just flew by. It didn't matter because you're just having so much fun with it. And that's really when you start working together with a great group at work where you're working together for hours and you just look forward to those meetings and you look forward to those projects. And I hope everybody has the opportunity at some point to experience that because it's very few and far between where you find people around you to be able to experience that type of joy at work and be able to pull all those people together on one project. So when you do have it, run with it and hold on to it as long as you can.
And my question though, is how do you deal with the aftermath when the project ends? Because I had a huge downtime, or like not quite a depression, but after a large project I had where we had the most amazing team and we meshed so well and it was fantastic. And then it was over.
Yeah,
We were like on withdrawal. We're like, well, wait, I
exactly.
don't get to work with you anymore? Can we just
No.
make up a reason? It was
Right?
sad.
It is tough. I mean, then you got to find other places. Maybe you're going to start making dog clothes too. I'm not sure. But you have to find other places as an outlet for that energy so that you don't
Hmm.
lose that energy moving forward.
Hmm.
And then you can figure out opportunities to be able to recreate that. So you can take your level 5 energy and then start recruiting people around
Good
you
point.
and bringing those energy levels up to create great environments around you again. So understand maybe what other energy levels people are at on the projects you're working on and then figuring out how to bring them up there with you. So
Sure. So using
picking them
using
up.
what you just experienced and creating more of
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. Get them to climb that ladder up those energy levels with you. All right. Then our last level that we have here is energy level 7. And this is one that I talked about on I don't know where I experienced this. It took me a while to figure out where level 7 comes out for me. And know that everybody experiences level 7. However, nobody purely sits in level 7. It's one of those where it's like you are never going to be a strong percentage sitting in level 7, but you have these moments where you're just in there, where there's just unconditional love and creation. There's no judgment. There's nothing that's good or bad. It just is. And you have this unconditional really love. That's what sticks out for me in this level is just nothing can go bad in these cases. And for those of you who followed me before, this is my time that I spend with our Humane Society, that experience of just like pure love and passion. When I work the love train. So it is opportunity where they bring dogs up from the south to be adopted. So like 50 to 60 puppies every other Wednesday that come up. And I get to take their pictures. So before they get to go find their great families, they're coming off of this van being brought up here to get their new families, to have new siblings. And I get to take their pictures when they're all wrapped in towels. They're all here and safe and sound. And it's Wednesday nights from like 8:30 to 10:30. So it's a late night. I'm not gonna lie, it smells like poop. It's because they've been in these containers for 9 to 10 hours in these crates in the van. It's not the most glorious experience, and I always get home pretty late, but it doesn't matter because knowing what happens to these dogs, the great families they get to go find, that is a passion of mine. So I get to be able to go experience that, and that is my level 7 situation. So I know when I can harness that, and I try and figure out ways that I can bring that same experience and those same passions to other people in these cases. So knowing where I experience it, and then what can I do to recreate that. So, asking ourselves the question then of how are we showing up? And this is one quick question that I have for you of thinking who has been cut off before while driving their cars? So, if we take a look at this quick illustration to understand these levels and make them more real. So, level 1 would be I always get cut off. This always happens to me. Like, why does this happen? And that's very much so level 1. Level 2 would be, you stupid idiot, I'll show you. And you're going to go after them and you're going to blame the other guy. So you're going to get defensive in those situations. A level 3 would essentially be, hey, wow, that was a close call. He's probably driving like a maniac all the time. It must be tough being him. So we're rationalizing in those cases.
Or
Um,
her.
or her, yes, or her in these cases. Actually, I was going to say I've seen some bad behavior from both sides in this situation. Level 4 would be, wow, that poor guy or girl might have some kind of family emergency going on. I hope he gets where he's going safely and that everything is okay for him. So that's level 4, that care and compassion that we have. Level 5 could be, hey, that was a close call. Glad we didn't have an accident in those cases. But what a great opportunity to exercise patience and to know that my reflexes still work. So that's looking at the opportunity in the situation. A level 6 would essentially be up just another day out on the road, experiencing all that life has to offer, where you're just like, it is what it is, and I'm just going to keep going on with my day. And a level 7 would be like, what traffic, what car, what's going on? I'm just listening to my favorite songs as we go through my day. So you're just out there enjoying the sunshine in these cases. So that's a quick example of all different 7 levels of energy in one situation. So thinking about how are you showing up to yourself? How are you showing up to others? So go back, think through a situation and go back through those 7 levels of energy and be like, which one am I showing up as today? So also think, stop. What's your strategy? What situation are you going into? And what do I want to show? So stop, breathe, think, be an observer of your thoughts, and then choose which energy you want to jump into. All right. So, what thoughts am I having from this situation? Why am I having these thoughts right now? What's the real reason I might be triggered? This can help you identify the actual energy level that you're sitting in. And then, why and how am I acting because of it? So, sitting down, answering those questions can help you determine which level of energy you're sitting in and what that looks like. And then last but not least on this, hey, does this sound like something you're interested in? We've got to throw our little sales spiel here at the end. April and May happen to be energy months. So this happens to be when our ELI assessments go on sale. So if you are interested in understanding your energy level mix, reach out to me. We are running a sale on this for the months of April and May. So by all means, give me a call on this and we can help you figure out what your energy assessment looks like. All
And
right.
I've done it, and again, just adding to the sales spiel, it's fantastic. It tells you stuff that you already know, but it's sometimes validating. But then the stuff that you don't recognize or realize, it pulls out, so it fills
Oh,
in a
yeah,
lot of blanks. Or why do I react like that? Oh, now I know, and now I can, appropriately change my behavior.
definitely.
So
Connecting a
definitely
lot of dots for me in
huge,
these cases. For
definite win.
sure.
Yeah.
Good, good, good. So as Jen said, she's gone through it. I've gone through it. I've probably administered over 40 of these now. You'll get your own energy level assessment back of what your stress reaction is versus what your energetic profile might look like. You get customized notes on personal observations of each of the different energy levels, as well as some specific notes overall, any trends that we might be seeing. I go through each of the different debriefs and then walk through where some of these connections might be made and some suggestions and how we can improve together on this. And it's a really cool assessment that I love to take. So very similar to what you might have done in Myers-Briggs and DISC, but this is actually stuff you can change over time. Whereas Myers-Briggs, DISC assessment, all of that kind of stuff, that's pretty much your personality throughout your entire life. You actually have the ability to change your own energy. So it's more an attitudinal assessment in these cases on how you can actually change your energy. So that is the 7 levels of energy here today. I'm going to hand it over to Jen to talk a little bit about our upcoming webinar in April because we've got more stuff on planning coming up.
Yeah, and Julie, actually, kind of what you talked about today is a perfect kind of introduction because it's taking your awareness and how you react, and then
Mhm.
putting it into a plan. So when you step into that next challenging situation, you don't react like you did and do the whole face palm because I've been there, I've done it, and it's not fun. And so focusing on just communication tips for, especially for effective communication, things that we already know that we just lose practice on. So a lot of reminders there, filling in some more unknowns, and then helping you with the planning of how you're going to react and communicate the next time you're in that
Absolutely.
challenging situation.
I'm super excited for this one, so I hope you guys sign up for it because it really can change how you show up
Hmm.
and really what the outcomes of those meetings are. Just with a little bit of planning on yourself instead of rushing from meeting to meeting to meeting. This will definitely help you out in those cases. So we are really looking forward to that. If you want to sign up for that, obviously there's a link on our YouTube channel. There's a link on our website on jointpivot.com. And then just reach out to us if you've got questions. And that is it for today. As always, if you guys have any questions, we are happy to talk about any of the subjects of our webinars before. If you've got questions on energy leadership, feel free to reach out to us as well. And we hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day and you get out there to enjoy some of this beautiful March weather that we are experiencing before it's going to start raining later today. So have fun with it. And thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Thank
Thanks,
you, Julie.
everyone. Bye.